Haven Colony became the center of a new movement. Researchers from across the galaxy began arriving, wanting to study peaceful Ravager communication. Some brought captive Ravagers with them, requesting that David and Ash help rehabilitate the traumatized creatures. The first rehabilitation was difficult. The captive Ravager, who David named Storm because of the dark coloring on its scales, had spent 3 years in a cage. It was aggressive and frightened, lashing out at anyone who approached. But when Ash spoke to Storm in their shared language, something changed. David watched as Ash communicated with Storm for hours. The vocalizations were complex, full of emotion and meaning that David could only partially understand. But he saw the effect. Storm gradually calmed. The aggressive posturing stopped. The creature began to respond, slowly learning to trust again. By the end of the week, Storm was eating from David's hand. By the end of the month, Storm had bonded with one of the Haven Colony researchers and was participating in language studies. News of the rehabilitation spread. More stations contacted Haven Colony, asking for help with their captive Ravagers. Each success built momentum. The evidence became impossible to deny. Ravagers were intelligent, social, and capable of peaceful coexistence with other species. But the Council remained officially unmoved. The laws classifying Ravagers as existential threats stayed in place. Powerful members of the Council had built careers on anti-Ravager policies. They would not change easily. "We need something bigger," David said during a strategy meeting. "Something so undeniable that even the most stubborn council members have to acknowledge the truth." Dr. Amara looked thoughtful. "What if we brought Ash to the council directly? Let them see firsthand what we have learned?" "They would never allow it," Silas said. "The security risk alone would be grounds for refusal." "Then we broadcast it," David said suddenly. "We request a formal hearing broadcast across the entire galaxy. Let billions of people watch as we present our evidence. Let public opinion force the council to act. It was risky. If they failed publicly, the backlash would be severe. But if they succeeded, they could change everything." "I will make it happen," Silas promised. "I still have enough influence to force a hearing. But David, you need to understand, this will be your only chance. If the council rejects your evidence after a public hearing, there will be no more appeals. The execution orders will be carried out immediately." David looked at Ash. The creature had been listening to the entire conversation, and those intelligent eyes held understanding. Ash knew what was at stake. The creature made a determined sound and pressed its forehead against David's chest. "Together, always." "We will do it," David said. "We will go to the council and show them the truth, and the galaxy will have to listen." The Galactic Council chamber was the largest room David had ever seen. It stretched upward for what seemed like miles, with seating arranged in concentric rings that held representatives from hundreds of worlds. Holographic displays floated everywhere, showing real-time translations and data feeds. At the center of it all was a small platform where David and Ash would make their case. The hearing was being broadcast to every corner of known space. Billions of beings were watching. David felt the weight of their attention like a physical pressure. Ash stood beside him, perfectly still despite the overwhelming environment. The creature's bioluminescent markings glowed a steady, calm blue. David drew strength from that calm. If Ash could face this with courage, so could he. The council speaker, an ancient being whose species David did not recognize, called the session to order. The chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of translation devices. "This hearing concerns the classification of the species known as Ravagers," the speaker announced. "David Chen, human researcher, has requested a review of this classification based on new evidence. You may begin your presentation." David stepped forward. His hands wanted to shake, but he forced them to be steady. He had practiced this presentation 100 times. He knew every word, every piece of evidence, every argument. But standing here, facing the collected authority of the galaxy, felt different than any practice session. "Honored council members," David began, "I stand before you today to present evidence that will challenge everything we thought we knew about Ravagers. For decades, we have classified them as mindless predators, existential threats to be destroyed on sight. But we were wrong. Terribly, tragically wrong." He activated his data displays. Holographic images filled the air around him. Recordings of Ash's vocalizations with accompanying analysis, behavioral studies, problem-solving tests, cultural information. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Ravagers are not monsters, David continued. They are people. They have language, culture, family structures. They feel love and grief. They can reason, create, and communicate. Everything we attributed to mindless aggression was actually defensive behavior, from a species trying to protect their families from invasion. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some council members leaned forward with interest. Others looked skeptical or angry. David pressed on. I know this is difficult to accept. Many of you have lost people to Ravager attacks. I understand that pain. Commander Silas, who is here today, lost his entire family. But he has also had the courage to look past his grief and see the truth. Commander, would you like to speak? Silas stood from where he had been seated in the observers section. The chamber fell silent as the decorated military officer approached the platform. I spent 40 years hunting Ravagers, Silas said, his voice carrying clearly despite his emotion. I believed I was protecting the galaxy from monsters. But David Chen showed me that the real monster was my own refusal to see the truth. The Ravagers who destroyed my colony were not attacking for pleasure or conquest. They were rescuing their children from our research facilities. We took their young first. They responded with the same fierce protective instinct that any parent would feel. He walked to Ash and placed his hand on the creature's head. Ash made a soft sound and leaned into the touch. This being offered me forgiveness I did not deserve, Silas continued. Showed me compassion when I had shown its species only violence. If Ravagers are monsters, then they are better monsters than we are people. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some council members were moved by Silas's testimony. Others shouted that he had been manipulated or compromised. The speaker called for order, but the chaos continued. Then Ash did something that silenced everyone. The creature stepped forward to the center of the platform and began to vocalize. But these were not the simple sounds David had recorded. This was something else. A complex, layered harmonic that filled the entire chamber. The sound was beautiful, haunting, and unmistakably intelligent. It told a story in pure emotion and meaning. David listened, tears streaming down his face as Ash sang the history of the Ravager people. Their peaceful existence before first contact. The terror of ships descending from the sky. Children taken and never returned. Parents searching desperately for their lost young. The grief when some were never found. The fierce determination to protect those who remained. The hope that someday someone would listen, someone would understand. The song ended. The chamber was absolutely silent. Even the most hardened council members looked shaken. This was not the vocalization of an animal. This was art, poetry, history. This was the voice of a sentient species crying out for recognition. You heard it, David said quietly. All of you heard it. Can you still call them monsters? Can you still justify their extermination? A council member from a reptilian species stood. The evidence is compelling. But how do we know this is not an isolated case? One intelligent Ravager does not prove the entire species is sentient. Show them, Dr. Amara called from the observer section. She activated her own data display. We have been communicating with captive Ravagers across the galaxy, using the language David decoded. Every single one has responded with similar intelligence and complexity. This is not an isolated case. This is an entire species we have been systematically destroying out of ignorance and fear. More data filled the displays. Video recordings of captive Ravagers responding to peaceful communication. Behavioral changes showing increased cooperation and reduced aggression. Rehabilitation successes. The evidence kept mounting, piece after undeniable piece. A council member stood, her voice sharp. Even if we accept that Ravagers are intelligent, they are still dangerous. They have killed thousands. How do we guarantee our safety? David looked at Ash. The creature met his eyes and made a sound that David had learned meant trust and friendship. He turned back to the council. The same way any species guarantees safety, David said. Through communication, mutual respect, and understanding. Humans were once considered dangerous predators, too. We hunted megafauna to extinction on our homeworld. We fought wars that killed millions. But we also learned to cooperate, to form alliances, to see past our differences. That is what makes us truly intelligent. Not our capacity for violence, but our capacity for peace. He walked to Ash and placed his hand on the creature's side. Ash could have killed me a dozen times. That first night when we met, I was completely defenseless. But Ash chose mercy, chose trust, chose to believe that I could be a friend instead of an enemy. Can we be brave enough to make the same choice? The speaker called for a recess. The council members withdrew to deliberate. David and Ash were escorted to a waiting area. Hours passed in tense silence. Dr. Amara, Silas, Quillix, River, and the others who had helped them sat nearby, offering quiet support. Finally, the council reconvened. David and Ash returned to the platform. The chamber was packed with observers, and the holographic feeds showed that viewership across the galaxy had reached unprecedented levels. Everyone wanted to know what the council would decide. The speaker stood. The council has reviewed all evidence presented. We have also consulted with our own xenobiology experts who have confirmed the validity of David Chen's research. After much debate, we have reached a decision. David held his breath. Ash pressed close against his side. The classification of Ravagers as existential threats is hereby revoked, the speaker announced. Effective immediately, they are recognized as a sentient species with full protection under Galactic Council law. All captive Ravagers are to be released and provided rehabilitation support. Military operations in the Outer Reach are suspended pending the establishment of diplomatic relations. David felt his knees go weak. They had done it. Actually done it. Ash made a sound of pure joy, and David hugged the creature, not caring that billions of people were watching. But the speaker was not finished. Furthermore, the council recognizes David Chen for his extraordinary courage and dedication to the pursuit of truth. And we recognize Commander Silas for his willingness to question his own beliefs in the face of new evidence. You have both shown us what it means to be truly civilized. Not the absence of fear, but the courage to look past it. The chamber erupted in applause. Not everyone was clapping. David could see some council members who looked angry or dissatisfied. Change was never easy, and this decision would have far-reaching consequences. But it was the right decision. For the first time in decades, the galaxy had chosen understanding over fear. In the months that followed, David and Ash became ambassadors of a sort. They traveled to research stations and colonies, teaching others how to communicate peacefully with Ravagers. Captive Ravagers were released and rehabilitated. Some chose to return to their home territories. Others, like Ash, decided to stay and help build bridges between species. David established the Institute for Interspecies Understanding at Haven Colony. Dr. Amara served as the director, and Commander Silas headed security, ensuring that all interactions with Ravagers were peaceful and respectful. Researchers from across the galaxy came to study and learn. The wild Ravager populations in the Outer Reach were cautiously receptive to contact. They remembered the violence of the past, but they also recognized the genuine attempts at peace. Slowly, carefully, diplomatic relations began to form. The first Ravager representatives arrived at the Galactic Council, speaking through translators who had learned their language from Ash. Not everything was perfect. There were incidents. Some humans and aliens still feared Ravagers and attacked on sight. Some Ravagers, traumatized by years of persecution, responded with violence. But each conflict was investigated, addressed, and used as a learning opportunity. The cycle of automatic violence was broken. David never finished his original thesis. He did not need to. His work with Ash had become the most important xenobiology research in galactic history. Universities offered him positions. Research grants poured in, but David chose to stay at Haven Colony, continuing his work with Ash and the growing population of Ravagers who were learning to trust again. One evening, David sat in his quarters watching the sunset through the colony windows. Ash lay beside him, as always, the creature's presence a constant comfort. Storm, the first Ravager David and Ash had rehabilitated, was also there with his own human partner, a young researcher named River who had bonded with Storm just as deeply as David had bonded with Ash. "Do you ever regret it?" River asked. "You gave up your old life, your career plans, everything." David thought about the question. His old life seemed like something from a different universe. The nervous graduate student working late in a lab, afraid to take risks, content to study life from a safe distance. That person was gone. In his place was someone who had learned what it meant to truly live, to stand up for what was right, to choose compassion over fear. "Not for a second," David said. Ash made that soft, multi-layered hum. The friend sound. The family sound. The creature rested its massive head on David's lap, and David ran his hand along the familiar scales. 3 years ago, a power failure had opened a chamber door. A frightened human had faced a supposed monster. And in that moment of crisis, both had chosen trust over violence. That choice had changed everything. The galaxy was not perfect. Fear and prejudice still existed. But now there was also hope. Hope that understanding was possible, that peace was achievable, that different species, no matter how alien they seemed to each other, could find common ground. David looked at Ash and Ash looked back at him. No words needed. Their bond transcended language, transcended species, transcended everything that should have made them enemies. They were family, not by blood or biology, but by choice, by the conscious decision to see each other not as threats, but as people. What do you think comes next? River asked. For you and Ash. David smiled. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. Ash's bioluminescent markings glowed a peaceful blue. The creature made a sound that David had long since learned to interpret perfectly. A sound that meant home, safety, belonging. A sound that said everything that mattered. Together. Always. Forever. Outside the windows, the stars stretched endlessly. Each one potentially held life, held species that were different and strange and possibly frightening. But they also held possibility. The possibility of friendship, of understanding, of peace. The beast had broken free. The human had stood guard. And together they had shown the galaxy something it desperately needed to see. That compassion was not weakness. That understanding was not surrender. That the bravest thing anyone could do was to look at something they feared and choose to see a person instead of a monster. It was a lesson the galaxy would not forget. And it all started with a graduate student who was too stubborn to run away, and a creature who was too kind to attack. Two unlikely friends who had saved each other and in doing so had saved so much more. The sun set over Haven Colony, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. David sat with his family, human and Ravager, together, and felt something he had not felt in years. Complete peace. The galaxy still had problems to solve. There would be setbacks and challenges ahead. But for the first time in generations, there was real hope. Hope that all species, no matter how different, could find a way to coexist, to understand. To become not just neighbors in the galaxy, but friends. And it all began with a beast who broke free and guarded a human student like its own. A simple act of kindness in a moment of crisis. Proof that the best parts of humanity, and the best parts of every species, were stronger than fear. David closed his eyes and leaned against Ash, feeling the steady heartbeat of his closest friend. Whatever tomorrow brought, they would face it together, the beast and the human, the student and his unlikely protector, two people who had chosen love over fear and changed the galaxy forever. Together, always, forever. The end.
Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video. That way, you'll always stay connected to our stories and never miss the next adventure. The thing about working maintenance on an interstellar diplomatic vessel is that nobody really notices you until something breaks. And Fiona liked it that way, honestly. No speeches, no formal dinners, no having to pretend she understood the difference between a Rigelian greeting bow and a Rigelian insult bow, which, for the record, was about 3 degrees and could start a war if you got it wrong. She was elbow deep in a junction panel on Deck 9, humming something off-key and probably older than half the crew when the smell hit her. Musk, sharp, wild, with an undercurrent of something that made the lizard part of her brain sit up and whisper, "Hey, maybe we should not be here." Fiona paused, sonic wrench halfway to a stubborn relay coupling. The corridor behind her had gone very, very quiet. She turned slowly, because sudden movements around apex predators, yeah, she'd sat through that safety briefing, the one everyone slept through except the people who actually read their job contracts. 3 pairs of eyes stared back at her, gleaming, golden, unblinking. Felkari cubs. Oh, fantastic. They were smaller than the adults she'd seen stalking around the diplomatic quarters, all coiled muscle and casual menace. But smaller was relative. Each one was still the size of a large dog, covered in midnight blue fur with those distinctive silver stripes that rippled when they moved. And they were moving. Closer. Low to the ground. Heads tilted in that universal predator assessment of food, threat, or toy. "Ah," Fiona said, which was perhaps not her most eloquent moment. "Hi." The closest one, The biggest of the three, with a white patch over one eye, chirped. Actually chirped, like some kind of murderous bird. Its ears swiveled forward. Fiona's training, such as it was, consisted of don't run, don't scream, don't make eye contact, and definitely don't. "You guys lost?" she asked, making direct eye contact, because apparently her survival instincts had clocked out early today. The cubs exchanged glances. The big one chirped again and took another step forward. The second one, sleeker and more cautious, hung back, watching. The third, noticeably smaller than its siblings, was already trying to climb into her open toolbox. "Hey! Hey! No!" Fiona lunged forward, forgetting entirely that she was lunging toward alien predators, and shooed the little one away from her plasma torch. "That's not a toy. That'll take your paw clean off." The small cub made a sound like a squeaky hinge and bounced backward, landing on its haunches with an expression that, on a human child, would have been pure mischief. Fiona blinked, then blinked again. They were just sitting there, watching her, the way kids watched adults do interesting things. "Okay," she said slowly, sitting back on her heels. "Okay, so, where's your, handler? Guardian? Pack leader?" She was pretty sure she'd seen the Felkari delegation on Deck 5 with some youngsters earlier in the week, which meant someone, somewhere, was missing 3 very expensive, very toothy political assets. The big one with the eye patch tilted its head the other way. Its tail, thick and tufted at the end, swished once. Fiona glanced down the corridor. Empty. She glanced at her comm unit. She should call someone. Security. Command. Literally anyone whose job description included dealing with unsupervised alien children who could probably bite through a bulkhead. The small one made that squeaky sound again and crept closer, sniffing at her boots. "You're trouble, aren't you?" Fiona muttered. "I can tell." It sneezed in response, a tiny explosion of air that ruffled its whiskers, and Fiona felt something in her chest do a stupid, inconvenient thing. The softening thing. The, "oh no, they're actually kind of cute" thing that bypassed every logical thought about claws and teeth and interstellar incident reports. She sighed, pulled her lunchbox out of her toolkit. "You guys hungry? Is that it?" 3 pairs of ears perked up simultaneously. "Yeah, that's what I thought." She unwrapped a protein bar, allegedly chocolate flavor, actually tasted like someone's idea of chocolate, filtered through a recycling unit, and broke off a piece. "Here, don't tell anyone I did this. Pretty sure feeding the delegates is against some kind of protocol." She tossed the piece to the big one, who snatched it out of the air with reflexes that would make a mongoose jealous. Chewed once, swallowed, stared at her with what might have been respect. "Good, right? Yeah, it's terrible, but it's calories." She broke off 2 more pieces for the others. The cautious one approached delicately, taking the food with what looked like actual manners. The small one just pounced on it like it was trying to kill it first. Fiona found herself smiling. Then she caught herself smiling and frowned instead, because this was absurd. She was sitting in a maintenance corridor having a snack party with 3 alien predator cubs who definitely should not be here. "All right, look," she said, standing up and brushing crumbs off her work pants. "This was fun and all, but I've got 6 more panels to check before my shift ends. And you 3 need to get back to wherever you're supposed to be before someone notices you're gone, and I end up in front of a disciplinary committee." She packed up her tools, sealed the junction panel, and started walking. Made it about 10 steps before she realized she could hear the soft pat, pat, pat of paws on deck plating behind her. Fiona stopped, turned around. No. 3 cubs sat in a neat row, looking up at her. "No," she repeated, pointing back down the corridor. "Go, home, shoo." The big one yawned, showing off a truly impressive set of teeth. "I'm serious. I don't know what you think this is, but I'm not your friend or your person or whatever. Go find your actual people." The small one squeaked and started grooming its paw. Fiona stared at them. They stared back, completely unbothered. The universe's most patient game of chicken, except she was playing against creatures that literally hunted for fun. "Fine," she said eventually, throwing up her hands. "Fine. But when someone finds you following me around and asks questions, I'm telling them you stalked me. This is stalking. Interstellar stalking." She turned and kept walking. The padding of paws resumed behind her. By the time she reached the next maintenance junction, she'd accepted her fate. By the time she finished that panel, she'd named them in her head. The big one was clearly Reek, because he had that bold, "I'm in charge here" energy. The cautious one was Loam, all careful consideration and analysis. And the tiny chaos agent was definitely Pip, because if that wasn't a Pip, she'd eat her sonic wrench. She told herself she'd take them back to the Felkari quarters after her shift. Definitely after her shift. It wasn't her problem that they'd decided she was interesting. Someone else could deal with the diplomatic implications. Except when her shift ended and she trudged back to her quarters on Deck 12, all 3 cubs followed her right to her door. And when she went inside, alone, thank you, there were limits, they curled up in the corridor outside and apparently decided that was home now. Fiona leaned against her door, listening to the sound of purring through the metal. Deep, thrumming, contentment sounds that vibrated through the deck plating. "This is insane," she told her empty quarters. "This is absolutely insane." The purring continued. She should call someone. Right now. This instant. Instead, she took a shower, ate a rehydrated meal that claimed to be lasagna, and went to bed, trying very hard not to think about the 3 predators sleeping outside her door, like the universe's most dangerous security detail. She'd deal with it in the morning. Definitely in the morning. Morning came with a chime at her door, and the kind of pounding that suggested someone very important was very unhappy. Fiona groaned, pulled on her uniform, and keyed the door open. Gemma stood in the corridor, the first officer's expression hovering somewhere between bewildered and exasperated. At her feet, 3 Felkari cubs sat in perfect formation, tails curled neatly around their paws, looking for all the world like they'd been there on official business. "Fiona," Gemma said slowly, "would you like to explain why there are 3 juvenile Felkari camped outside your quarters?" Fiona looked at the cubs. The cubs looked at her. Pip yawned. "Would you believe me if I said they followed me home?" Gemma's eye twitched. "The captain wants to see you. Now. And bring them with you, apparently. Because they won't move." "Yeah," Fiona said, grabbing her toolkit out of habit. "Yeah, that tracks." This was going to be a long day. The captain's ready room was designed to be impressive. Sweeping viewports showing the star-streaked darkness of transit space, holographic displays floating like captured constellations, furniture that probably cost more than Fiona made in a year. Very official. Very intimidating. Less intimidating when 3 alien cubs were sprawled across the expensive carpet like house cats, one of them actively chewing on what looked like a decorative pillow. "Pip, drop it!" Fiona hissed. Pip looked at her, looked at the pillow, and took another deliberate bite. Fiona heard something tear. Captain Dimitri sat behind his desk, hands folded, face carefully neutral in that way that meant he was screaming internally. Next to him, Gemma stood with a data pad, her expression suggesting she'd already drafted 6 incident reports and was working on number 8. "So," Dmitri said eventually, "this is irregular." "Yes, sir," Fiona agreed, because what else was she going to say? "The Felkari delegation is in a state of—" He paused, glancing at Gemma. "Panic, sir. The word you're looking for is panic." "Concern," Dmitri corrected smoothly. "Diplomatic concern. Apparently, these 3 juveniles are the offspring of some very important people, and their disappearance last night caused something of an incident." Fiona winced. "I tried to take them back. They wouldn't go." "Yes, we're aware. We're also aware that when the Felkari handlers attempted to retrieve them this morning, all 3 cubs, and I'm reading directly from the report here, displayed aggressive defensive posturing and refused to abandon their chosen position outside Technician Fiona's quarters." Rick, as if understanding he was being discussed, lifted his head and chirped proudly. "They're children," Fiona said, a little desperately. "Can't you just pick them up? Carry them back?" Gemma made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. "The handlers tried. One of them ended up with claw marks across his environmental suit. Not through it, thankfully, but the message was clear." "Okay, but," Fiona gestured at the cubs, "they're not being aggressive now. Look at them. Loam's literally napping." "With you, they're docile," Dmitri said. "With everyone else, they're apparently auditioning for a horror film." Ambassador Eric Small is, quote, "deeply troubled by this development and is requesting a formal meeting to discuss the situation." A formal meeting? About babysitting? About an unprecedented behavioral anomaly in a species that has never, in recorded history, bonded with a prey species. The word prey hung in the air like a bad smell. Fiona looked at the cubs again. Rick had rolled onto his back, paws in the air, tongue lolling out in what was unmistakably a request for belly rubs. Prey. Right. "When's this meeting?" she asked. 1 hour. Conference room 3. And yes, you'll need to bring them because..." Dimitri's professional mask slipped for just a moment, showing pure exhaustion. "Because apparently, they won't let anyone near them except you. And the last thing we need is 3 traumatized predator cubs tearing through the ship looking for their..." He trailed off. "Their what?" "We don't know," Gemma said quietly. "That's the problem. We don't know what they think you are." The meeting was exactly as awkward as Fiona had imagined, except somehow worse. Conference room 3 was packed with people who all looked varying degrees of uncomfortable. The Felkari delegation took up one side of the long table, including Ambassador Eric Small, a towering figure of midnight fur and barely contained predatory grace, and Elixigor, a slightly smaller male whose silver stripes seemed to shimmer when he moved. The human contingent occupied the other side. Dmitri, Gemma, a couple of diplomatic officers Fiona didn't recognize, and, joy of joys, someone from intelligence with the kind of face that suggested she thought everyone was a potential security threat. Which, fair, but still. And then there was Fiona, sitting at the end of the table with 3 cubs draped across her like living scarves. Pip had claimed her lap. Rick was pressed against her left side, purring like a small engine. Loam had her head on Fiona's right thigh, golden eyes half closed in contentment. Everyone was staring. "Right," Dmitri said, after a silence that stretched just past comfortable. "Ambassador Eric Small, thank you for joining us. I understand this situation is as unexpected for you as it is for us." Eric Small's ears flicked back. A gesture Fiona had learned meant displeasure. When he spoke, his voice was a deep rumble, translated through the universal comm system, with only a slight delay. Unexpected does not capture the magnitude of this anomaly. Felkari cubs imprint on pack leaders. This is biological imperative, survival instinct honed over millennia. They imprint on strength, on dominance, on the scent of apex status. His gaze fixed on Fiona. They do not imprint on prey. "I'm sitting right here," Fiona muttered. Pip squeaked in agreement. "No offense intended," Eric's mole continued, though his tone suggested he didn't particularly care about offense. "But humans register on our instinctive threat assessment as food," Elixir supplied helpfully. "Prey species, low threat, soft." "Okay, wow, thanks for that," Fiona said. Gemma cleared her throat. "Perhaps we could focus on the current situation rather than humanity's position on the food chain." "The current situation," Eric's mole said, leaning forward, "is that 3 cubs from high-ranking families have rejected their own kind in favor of a—" He paused, searching for words. "A maintenance technician. With no combat training, no leadership rank, no offense. But you're really hammering home this whole humans are useless thing," Fiona interrupted. Rick growled, low and warning, and suddenly Eric's mole went very still. The cub was staring at the ambassador, body tense, ears flat, protective. "Fascinating," the intelligence officer murmured, making notes on her data pad. Elixir leaned forward, studying the cubs with intensity. "May I approach?" Fiona said. "Sure." The Felkari liaison moved slowly, gracefully, every gesture deliberate. He got within 2 meters of the table before Rick stood up, placing himself between Elixir and Fiona, lips pulled back from his teeth. Not quite a snarl, but close. Elixir stopped, blinked slowly, sat back. "Extraordinary. He's guarding her." "Cubs guard pack leaders," Eric's mole said, but his voice held uncertainty now. "But pack leaders are always Felkari," Elixir finished. "Always predators, never prey." He tilted his head, studying Fiona. "What did you do?" "Nothing. I was working. They showed up. I gave them some food because they looked hungry. And now, they won't leave me alone. That's it. That's the whole story." "You fed them," Eric's mole said slowly. "You, a prey species, fed predator cubs. They were cubs. They were hungry. Was I supposed to just ignore them?" "Yes," 3 people said simultaneously. Fiona threw up her hands, dislodging Pip, who tumbled into her lap with an indignant squeak. "Well, excuse me for having basic compassion." "You weren't afraid," Elixir said, sudden understanding in his voice. "When you encountered them, you weren't afraid." "I was a little afraid. They have a lot of teeth." "But you didn't run, didn't scream, didn't freeze." Elixir looked at Eric's mole. She treated them as equals, as individuals worthy of interaction. "That's insane," Eric's mole said. "Prey runs. It's instinct." "Maybe human instincts are different," Gemma offered. "Or maybe," the intelligence officer said, still making notes, "she's just weird." Hey! What followed was 2 hours of the most surreal discussion Fiona had ever been part of. Theories ranged from pheromonal anomalies to psychological imprinting to the possibility that Fiona had somehow performed an unknown Felkari bonding ritual by complete accident. Someone suggested brain scans. Someone else suggested isolation testing. The intelligence officer suggested surveillance, which earned her a flat look from Dimitri. Through it all, the cubs stayed pressed against Fiona, occasionally chirping or growling when someone said something they apparently didn't like. She started to recognize patterns. Reek reacted to perceived threats, Loam to sudden movements, Pip to anything that sounded aggressive. They were reading the room. responding to emotional context, protecting her. Finally, Dimitri called a halt. All right, here's what we're going to do. Fiona, you'll continue your normal duties with 3 apex predators following me around, with 3 juvenile Felkari in your care. Yes, Ambassador, I assume you'll want some of your people nearby to monitor? Eric's mole's tail lashed once. I will assign handlers to shadow at a distance. If the cubs show any signs of distress or aggression, they won't, Fiona said, with more confidence than she felt. Right, guys? 3 pairs of golden eyes looked at her with absolute trust, and something in Fiona's chest twisted. These ridiculous, dangerous, apparently very confused predator babies had decided she was their person, and despite every logical objection, she was starting to decide they were hers too. Dismissed, Dimitri said, sounding exhausted. And Fiona? Try not to start any interstellar incidents. Too late, Gemma muttered. The next 3 days were a masterclass in chaos management. Fiona tried to maintain her normal routine. Maintenance checks, repairs, system diagnostics. But everything took 3 times as long when accompanied by a trio of helpers. Rick insisted on inspecting every panel before she opened it, as if checking for threats. Lomi watched her work with intense focus, occasionally reaching out to touch tools with one careful paw. Pip just created entropy, climbing into access shafts, batting at loose wires, and once, memorably, getting his head stuck in a coolant intake. The crew's reactions ranged from terror to fascination. Some people crossed to the other side of the corridor when they saw Fiona coming. Others stopped to stare, taking photos, whispering to each other. One engineer asked if she could pet them. Rick allowed exactly 3 seconds of head scratches before deciding that was enough social interaction and returning to Fiona's side. The cubs were learning too, watching, mimicking. When Fiona used her sonic wrench, Rick tried to pick it up with his mouth, dropped it, then carefully used both paws. When she walked with her hands in her pockets, all 3 cubs developed a strange hopping gait that seemed designed to match her stride. When she took a break in the mess hall, they sat underneath her table in perfect formation, like furry soldiers at attention. "This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen," Lieutenant Dimitri said, sitting across from Fiona during lunch on the 3rd day. "And I once watched a Geltharian molt during a diplomatic dinner." "They're just kids," Fiona said, sneaking a piece of protein to Pip under the table. "Weird, toothy, alien kids, but still kids. Kids that could bite through your arm. Kids that haven't bitten through my arm. There's a difference. Your optimism is either inspiring or deeply concerning. I haven't decided which." Below the table, Rick made a sound like gravel in a blender, which Fiona had learned was his version of laughing, or threatening. The line was thin. That night, Fiona did something probably stupid. She let them into her quarters. She told herself it was practical. They were sleeping in the corridor anyway, and people kept tripping over them. She told herself it was safer. If they were inside, they couldn't wander off and terrorize other crew members. She told herself a lot of things that were probably justifications, but the truth was simpler. She was getting attached. They curled up on the floor next to her bed, a pile of fur and claws and quiet purring. Loam draped one paw over Rick's back. Pip wedged himself between them, tiny and content. Safe. "You guys are going to get me fired," Fiona whispered into the darkness. Rick's tail thumped once against the floor. Agreement, or maybe just sleep twitching. "I don't know what you think I am. I'm not a pack leader. I'm not a warrior or a hero or anything special. I fix things when they break. That's it." Pip squeaked, soft and drowsy. Yeah, I know. You don't care. Fiona closed her eyes. Well, just so you know, I'm keeping you. All three of you. The universe can figure out the paperwork. The purring intensified, a sound like distant thunder, and Fiona fell asleep to the sound of her strange, dangerous, perfect new family breathing in sync. The distress call came at 0300 hours, which was, in Fiona's opinion, an absolutely terrible time for anything to happen. She was dreaming about something involving infinite corridors and missing tools when the ship-wide alert jerked her awake. All three cubs instantly on their feet, ears forward, bodies tense. Medical transport refuge, this is the endless frontier. The comm system crackled. We're receiving your distress signal. What's your status? Static. Then a voice, tight with fear. Under attack, pirates. They've breached our port side. We have patients on board. Please? The connection cut out. Fiona was pulling on her uniform before she consciously decided to move. The cubs watched her, reading her tension, feeding off it. When she headed for the door, they followed without hesitation. The corridors were chaos. Crew members rushing to stations, security teams mobilizing, the ship's engines thrumming as they changed course. Fiona made it to engineering before Gemma's voice crackled over her personal comm. All non-essential personnel to safe zones. That means you, Fiona. I'm engineering staff. Pretty sure I'm essential. You're a maintenance technician with 3. A pause. Just get to a safe zone. That's an order. Fiona looked at the cubs. They looked back, waiting, trusting. Yeah, about that, she muttered, and kept walking. Engineering was controlled pandemonium. The chief engineer was barking orders. People were routing power to shields, and someone was swearing creatively at a console that was apparently not cooperating. Fiona found an empty station and pulled up the ship's status displays. The Endless Frontier wasn't a warship. She was a diplomatic vessel with defensive capabilities. Emphasis on defensive. Against a dedicated pirate crew with military-grade weapons, they were going to have problems. Shields at 60%, someone called out. Weapons systems charging. Medical transport is 8 minutes out. Fiona pulled up the shield distribution matrix, fingers flying over the controls. She could reroute power from non-essential systems, maybe boost the forward shields by 15%, buy them some time. The ship shuddered. Alarm klaxons wailed. Hull breach, Deck 8, Section 12. Fiona's stomach dropped. That was 2 decks below. Engineering. And Section 12 was... That's the maintenance junction, she said out loud. There's an external airlock access there. I was supposed to replace the seals next week. Lockdown protocols engaging, the chief engineer shouted. All personnel evacuate affected sections. But Fiona was already moving, cubs at her heels, because she knew that junction. She knew every panel, every access shaft, every vulnerability. And if pirates were coming through there, they'd have a direct route to the ship's primary databanks. Fiona! Gemma's voice in her ear. Where are you going? Deck 8. They're going to hit the data storage. Security is en route. Stand down. Fiona switched off her comm. The cubs kept pace with her as she ran, their claws clicking on the deck plating, bodies low and predatory. This was different from their playful following. This was hunting posture. They knew something was wrong. She reached Deck 8 and slowed, listening. Voices ahead, speaking a language the universal translator struggled with, harsh and guttural. The emergency lighting cast everything in red, shadows jumping and stretching. Fiona pressed herself against the wall, cubs beside her, and peered around the corner. 3 figures in armored enviro suits, military weapons, moving with purpose toward the data junction. pirates. Had to be. And they were between her and the emergency lockdown controls. Her mind raced. She could go back, find security, let them handle it. That was the smart play. The safe play. The lead pirate raised something that looked like a plasma cutter, aimed at the data junction door. Fiona looked at the cubs. They were staring at the pirates with intensity, bodies coiled. Rick's lips had pulled back from his teeth. Loam's tail was rigid. Even Pip had gone absolutely still. Golden eyes locked on the intruders. "Okay," Fiona whispered. "Okay, if we're doing this, here's the plan." She pulled out her data pad, accessed the environmental controls for this section. Lights. She could kill the lights. And the gravity, maybe, for just a few seconds. Enough to... The cubs moved. Not toward the pirates. Toward her. Rick pressed against her left side, Loam her right, Pip between her feet. Protective formation. Guard positions. They weren't going to attack. They were waiting for her to lead. "Oh no," Fiona breathed. "Oh no, you think I'm going to..." The lead pirate turned toward their hiding spot, weapon raising. Fiona's hands moved on the data pad. Lights out. Gravity to 20%. Emergency vents to full blast. The corridor plunged into darkness. Shouts of alarm. The soft sound of bodies floating, disoriented. And then, the cubs launched forward, and Fiona discovered that apex predators were even more terrifying in microgravity. Rick hit the lead pirate center mass, claws finding purchase on the Enviro suit, sending them spinning. Loam went low, sweeping another pirate's legs, or where their legs would be if gravity was normal. Pip, tiny chaos incarnate, latched onto the third pirate's helmet and just started screaming. A sound that was probably meant to be threatening, but came out more like a demonic squeaky toy. Fiona pushed off the wall, floating toward the environmental controls, fingers dancing over the panel. She could lock this section down, trap the pirates here, vent the atmosphere slowly through the breach they'd created. Something grabbed her ankle. She kicked, hard, connected with something that felt like armor. The grip loosened. She grabbed a handhold, pulled herself to the control panel, slammed her palm against the emergency lockdown. Blast doors slammed shut at both ends of the corridor. The gravity snapped back to normal. Bodies hit the deck with heavy thuds. Fiona landed in a crouch, sonic wrench in hand. When had she grabbed that? And found herself face to face with a pirate who was trying to aim a weapon with a very angry Rick attached to his arm. She didn't think, just moved. Sonic wrench to the side of the helmet, maximum frequency. The pirate's shields flickered, died. The helmet's seal cracked. He dropped the weapon, clutching his head, and Rick let go, backing toward Fiona. The other two pirates were down. One was unconscious. The other was curled in a ball while Loam stood over him, one paw on his chest, growling softly. Pip had apparently claimed a dropped weapon as a trophy and was trying to figure out how to carry it. Fiona stared at the scene. 3 pirates, neutralized. 3 cubs, unharmed. Her hands were shaking. "What?" she said to the universe at large. "Just happened?" Rick chirped, smug and proud. The door at the far end of the corridor began cycling open. Security override. A team burst through, weapons raised, and froze at the scene before them. Fiona raised her hands slowly. So, funny story. The team leader, a Rigelian with skin like burnished copper, lowered his weapon. "Fiona? What? How did you..." "The cubs helped," she said weakly. "And I know where all the environmental controls are. And I might have committed several safety violations. And also, I think I'm going to pass out now." She didn't pass out, but it was close. The security team secured the pirates. Someone called for medical, and Gemma appeared from somewhere looking like she'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. "You," Gemma said, pointing at Fiona, "are the most infuriating, reckless, brilliant idiot on this ship." "Thank you?" That wasn't a compliment. Felt like one. The cubs had arranged themselves around Fiona again, purring, pleased with themselves. Pip was still trying to carry the weapon, which was twice his size. Gemma looked at them, looked at the unconscious pirates, looked back at Fiona. "They fought to protect you." "Yeah, I noticed that." "No, you don't understand. They didn't attack. They defended. They followed your lead. Gemma ran a hand through her hair. "They think you're their pack leader. Actually, genuinely think it. That's insane." "Is it?" Gemma gestured at the corridor. "You just took down 3 armed pirates with a sonic wrench and 3 cubs. You didn't panic. You strategized. You led." Fiona looked down at the cubs. Rick stared back, golden eyes bright with something that looked almost like pride. Loam's tail was swishing contentedly. Pip had given up on the weapon and was now grooming his paws, the picture of innocence. "I'm a maintenance technician," Fiona said quietly. "You're a pack leader," Gemma corrected, "whether you wanted to be or not." From somewhere down the corridor, Fiona could hear Captain Dimitri's voice, demanding status reports. She could hear the hum of the ship's engines, the distant klaxons finally going quiet. Normal operations resuming. Except nothing was normal anymore. And maybe, Fiona thought, looking at her 3 ridiculous, dangerous, perfect cubs, that was okay. "Come on," she said, scratching Rick behind the ears. "Let's go explain this to the captain. Again." The cubs followed, of course. They always did. And somewhere in the chaos, Fiona realized she'd stopped questioning it. Ambassador Eriksmol arrived in Medical Bay while Fiona was getting checked over by a doctor who seemed more interested in the cubs than in her minor bruises. The ambassador moved through the space like a storm front, all coiled power and barely restrained intensity, and every person in the room suddenly found somewhere else to be. Except Fiona, who was stuck on a medical bed with 3 cubs draped across her legs like furry blankets. "They fought," Eriksmol said without preamble. "My people witnessed it on the security feeds. Juvenile Felkari, not yet trained in combat, coordinated an attack with precision that would impress adult hunters." "They were protecting me," Fiona said. "That's all." "That is not all." Eriksmol approached slowly, and for once the cubs didn't react defensively. Rick watched him but remained calm. "Do you understand what you witnessed? What you participated in? A really bad day at work?" The ambassador's ears flicked. "Amusement, maybe." "Pack hunting." "True pack hunting, with a designated leader directing strategy while the pack executes tactics. You did not tell them what to do. You did not need to. They read your intentions, your movements, your focus. They acted as extensions of your will." Fiona thought about that, about the way she'd moved toward the control panel and the cubs had moved toward the pirates, about how she'd known somehow that they would defend her while she worked, about the trust that flowed both ways. "I still don't understand why," she said quietly. "Why me? I'm nobody special." "That," Eriksmol said, "is what I came to explain. May I?" He gestured to a chair near the medical bed. Fiona nodded. The doctor, sensing this was above his pay grade, made himself scarce. Eriksmol sat, a strange sight, this massive predator folding himself into human-sized furniture with surprising grace. Our species evolved in a hostile environment. Multiple apex predators competing for territory, resources, survival. Felkari cubs developed an unusual trait. They do not imprint on their biological parents. They imprint on the strongest available pack leader, regardless of bloodline. Natural selection, Fiona said. Cubs who could identify and follow the best leaders had better survival rates. Precisely. But here is what my people forgot over generations of civilization. The cubs are not looking for the strongest fighter. They are looking for the strongest leader. Strategy, problem solving, resource management, calm under pressure. His golden eyes fixed on her. You displayed every trait of pack leadership when you encountered them. You assessed the situation. You provided resources. You showed no fear, no aggression, only competence. To them, you registered as the most qualified leader present. But I'm human. Prey. Adult Felkari see humans as prey because we are trained by culture to see you that way. Cubs have no such training. They see only behavior. And your behavior, he paused, something almost like respect in his voice. Your behavior is that of an apex predator who hunts with intelligence rather than claws. Pip chose that moment to wake up, yawn enormously, and try to bite Fiona's data pad. She gently redirected him to a stress ball the doctor had left behind. He pounced on it with murderous intent. They're still just kids, Fiona said. They are, but they are also the future of my species, and they have chosen you as their teacher. Eric Small leaned forward. The question is, will you accept? Accept what? Adoption into a Felkari clan. It has never been done with an alien species, but the precedent exists in our ancient laws. A pack leader who earns the loyalty of cubs may claim clan rights. He paused. You would be the first human ever granted this honor. Your cubs would be recognized as your pack. You would have legal authority over their upbringing. Fiona looked at the 3 balls of fur and chaos currently occupying her medical bed. Rick had fallen asleep sitting up, leaning against her side. Loam was watching her with those intelligent golden eyes, waiting. Pip had murdered the stress ball and was now napping on its corpse. I have a job, Fiona said. I'm a maintenance technician. I can't exactly raise 3 alien kids and fix junction panels at the same time. Why not? Eric Small asked simply. They are already following you everywhere. You are already teaching them. I have seen the reports. They are learning tool use, spatial reasoning, problem solving. One of them attempted to repair a panel yesterday. That was Loam. She was actually pretty good at it until Pip knocked over my toolkit. You see, you are already raising them. The only question is whether you do so with the blessing of my people, or whether you continue in this strange limbo state that is causing my diplomatic staff significant stress. Fiona laughed despite herself. Your diplomatic staff is stressed? You have no idea. There are 11 different reports attempting to classify this situation, 3 different cultural committees arguing about precedent, and yesterday, someone suggested we might need to renegotiate our entire treaty with humanity because of 3 cubs and 1 very stubborn technician. That's ridiculous. Yes, which is why I am offering a simpler solution. Join the clan, raise your pack, show the galaxy that strength comes in many forms. His tail swished once. And stop giving my people collective heart attacks every time you do something unexpected. I'm not trying to cause problems. I know. You are simply being yourself, which, apparently, is revolutionary. Eric Small stood, preparing to leave. Think about it, but do not think too long. The cubs are growing quickly, and the imprinting window does not last forever. What they learn from you now will shape who they become. He left, and Fiona was alone with the cubs and her thoughts. Well, mostly alone. The doctor was probably watching from somewhere, making sure she didn't have a concussion. "What do you three think?" she asked the cubs. "Should I officially become your weird alien mom?" Rick's ear twitched in his sleep. Loma blinked slowly, which Fiona had learned was the Felkari equivalent of a smile. Pip farted and kept sleeping. "That's a yes then." 3 months later, Fiona was replacing a faulty relay in junction panel 23B when Rick attempted to hand her a sonic wrench. He'd been watching her work for 20 minutes, studying which tool she used when, and apparently decided he could anticipate her needs. He was right. She needed that exact wrench. "Thanks," she said, taking it. "Good job." Rick's purr could probably be heard 3 decks away. Lome was across the corridor, carefully sorting spare parts by size and function. She'd developed a system that was honestly better than Fiona's original organization method. Pip was supposed to be helping, but had gotten distracted by a fascinating dust particle and was attempting to murder it. Normal day. Weird. Impossible. Perfect. Normal day. The adoption ceremony had been 3 weeks ago, a formal affair with more witnesses than Fiona thought strictly necessary, but apparently making history required an audience. She'd stood before the Felkari High Council, 3 cubs at her side, and spoken the ritual words that Eric Smol had taught her. Words about pack, about loyalty, about the bond between leader and led. The cubs had responded with their own vocalizations, a complex series of chirps and growls that meant, roughly translated, "This one is ours, and we are hers, and anyone who disagrees can fight about it." Very diplomatic, her children. Captain Dimitri had attended, looking somewhere between proud and exhausted. Gemma had actually teared up, which she denied later. Half the ship's crew had crowded into the observation gallery, and the other half had watched via live feed. Fiona had become the first human pack leader of Felkari cubs, and somehow her life had gotten both more complicated and simpler at the same time. "Fiona?" A voice from down the corridor. "Lieutenant Dimitri, carrying a data pad. Got a requisition here for 3 sets of modified engineering tools, sized for, quote, juvenile Felkari paws, extra grip, reinforced for enthusiastic use." "Yeah, that's mine. They keep trying to use my tools and they're too big, or too small, or they get dropped, a lot." Command approved it. They also approved a request from the Andromeda Science Institute. They want to study your teaching methods. Apparently, 3 other species with pack bonding young are very interested in cross-species adoption protocols now. "I'm not a protocol. I'm just winging it." "You're making history. There's a difference?" He handed her the data pad. "Also, Gemma wanted me to tell you that you're being considered for a commendation for the pirate incident. I broke about 15 safety regulations. You also saved the ship's data core and proved that humans can kick ass when properly motivated. Command is choosing to focus on the second part." Fiona signed the requisition form, watched Pip finally catch the dust particle, and immediately lose interest. You know what the weirdest part is? This feels normal now. 3 predator kids following me around, learning engineering, occasionally threatening diplomats who are rude to me. Just another day. Normal is relative. Your normal is everyone else's science fiction. Dimitri paused. "For what it's worth, you're doing great. They're good kids." "They really are," Fiona said softly. "Terrifying, occasionally destructive, always hungry, but good kids." That night, back in her quarters, now officially expanded to accommodate 3 growing Felkari, Fiona lay in bed listening to the symphony of purring from the floor. Reek and Loam had claimed opposite corners, establishing territory. Pip, as usual, had wedged himself into the space between her bed and the wall, because personal space was for other people. Her datapad chimed. A message from Eric Smole. The High Council wishes to formally thank you for your service to our people. The Cubs' progress reports are exceptional. You are teaching them to be both Felkari and something new, something better. The galaxy is watching, Fiona. Show them what humanity can do. No pressure, then. She set the datapad aside, closed her eyes, and listened to her strange, impossible family breathe in the darkness. Somewhere out there, other ships were traveling between stars. Other crews were dealing with their own crises. Other people were living their own stories. But here, in this moment, Fiona had everything she needed. 3 cubs who thought she hung the stars. A job she was good at. A purpose she'd never expected. "Hey," she whispered into the dark. "Thanks for following me home, guys. Best mistake I ever made." Pip squeaked in his sleep. Rick's tail thumped once against the floor. Loam's purr shifted to a deeper frequency, the sound of absolute contentment. And Fiona smiled, because the universe had given her the strangest gift imaginable, and she was keeping it. All of it. Forever.
Commander Vex Talaran had seen a lot in his 30 years running the Galactic Combat Training Facility on Station Chronos 7. He had trained Krellian shock troops, Azurian berserkers, and even a Thoraxian hive warrior who could technically count as 12 beings in one body. His forearms crossed with practiced authority as he surveyed his domain, the crown jewel of which was the Gauntlet Mark 9 combat simulator. Beautiful piece of machinery that cost more than a medium-sized moon, could generate any combat scenario in the known galaxy, and had a perfect track record of breaking even the most arrogant warriors within an hour. So when the human walked into his facility that morning, Vex's primary reaction was amusement. The secondary reaction was concern for the poor creature's mental health. "You want to run the gauntlet," Vex said slowly, as if speaking to a particularly dim child. "You, a human. That is why I'm here, yes," Marcus Reeves replied, setting down his gear bag with a thud that suggested it was heavier than it looked. "I need the advanced combat certification for my assignment, and apparently, this is the only facility in the sector that offers it." Vex's antenna twitched, which in Krellian body language meant something between pity and second-hand embarrassment. He had heard of humans, of course. Everyone had. They were the new species on the block, barely 2 centuries into galactic society. Soft, pink, distressingly fragile-looking things. They had exactly 2 arms, no natural armor, no venom sacs, no electromagnetic sensing organs, and their homeworld was a death world only by the most generous possible definition. Sure, it had weather, and some large predators, but please. Vex had trained people from planets where the rain was sulfuric acid. "Listen," Vex said, his voice taking on what he imagined was a kindly tone. "The gauntlet is designed for elite military personnel. We are talking about warriors who have survived actual combat. The psychological trauma alone has hospitalized dozens of beings. Perhaps you would be better suited to our introductory programs." Marcus just smiled. It was not a particularly reassuring smile. "I appreciate the concern, Commander, but I assure you I can handle it. I did read the description. Multiple hostile environments, adaptive AI opponents, escalating difficulty. Sounds fine." Sounds fine. Vex resisted the urge to physically shake this delusional mammal. Instead, he gestured to his assistant, Chitwick, a nervous insectoid whose species had perfected the art of anxiety over millions of years of evolution. Chitwick scuttled over with the waiver form, all 23 pages of it, printed on the special reinforced paper they used for legal documents that needed to survive being crumpled by angry, traumatized recruits. "Read carefully," Chitwick chittered, mandibles clicking nervously. "Especially page 7, subsection 14, regarding existential dread in the facility's non-liability for questioning the nature of your own existence." Marcus skimmed through the document with the casual indifference of someone who had definitely not read the terms and conditions. He signed with a flourish on the final page. All set. Vex felt a small twinge of something that might have been guilt. Then he remembered the human had been warned, and really a lesson in humility would do the creature good. He led Marcus to the simulator chamber, a massive spherical room that hummed with barely contained computational power. "I will start you at veteran level," Vex announced, punching in commands on the control console. This is typically reserved for beings with at least 5 years of active combat experience. You may tap out at any time by speaking the safe word, which is mercy in your language, or by simply collapsing into unconsciousness. The simulator will detect this and halt the program. Great. How long do these usually run? Marcus asked, stretching his arms in a way that suggested he was limbering up for something considerably less intense than mortal combat. The facility record is 47 minutes, Vex said proudly. Held by Captain Yenna Starbridge, an Azurian warrior with 16 confirmed combat drops and a personal kill count that is classified for morale reasons. Cool. Should be a decent warm-up then. Warm-up. The human called the gauntlet a warm-up. Vex decided that when this was over he would be very gracious about not saying "I told you so." He would just let the human learn through experience, like all foolish creatures must. "Whenever you are ready," Vex said, closing the chamber door with a satisfying pneumatic hiss. Marcus rolled his shoulders, cracked his neck, and gave a thumbs-up gesture that Vex assumed meant readiness. "Let's do this." Vex activated the simulation. The chamber shimmered and reformed into a dense alien jungle, complete with bioluminescent foliage, oppressive humidity, and the distant screech of something with too many teeth. Vex watched the monitor in the control room as Marcus appeared on screen, surrounded by vegetation that could charitably be described as aggressively hostile. Level 1 is a survival scenario, Vex explained to Chitwick, settling into his observation chair. Hostile environment, limited resources, several apex predators. Most recruits spend the first 10 minutes in pure panic mode. Let us see how long before he calls for mercy. On screen, Marcus looked around, assessed his surroundings, and immediately started jogging. Not running in panic, mind you. Jogging, like he was in a park. Is he treating this like exercise? Chitwick asked, antennae quivering. Before Vex could respond, a Draxan prowler, a 6-legged nightmare of claws and fury, burst from the undergrowth. The simulator had rendered it beautifully, all dripping fangs and murderous intent. It lunged at Marcus with a roar that had previously made a Thoraxian warrior wet himself. Marcus sidestepped, grabbed a branch, and used the creature's own momentum to redirect it face first into a tree. The prowler crumpled. Marcus continued jogging. "Beginner's luck," Vex muttered, but his primary stomach was already tightening with the first whisper of doubt. Level 2 initiated automatically. The jungle dissolved into a zero-gravity asteroid field with hostile drones. This was where most recruits started to mentally break down, as the human inner ear was notoriously bad at handling zero-G transitions. Marcus adapted in approximately 4 seconds. He used the debris as cover, turned a piece of shrapnel into an improvised projectile weapon, and methodically disabled each drone with the kind of casual efficiency that suggested he had done this before. Which was impossible, because Vex had checked, and humans did not train in zero-gravity combat simulations back on Earth. They definitely did not. Perhaps their species has some natural advantage we are unaware of, Chitwick suggested hopefully. Perhaps, Vex said, watching Level 3 load. It was a toxic atmosphere scenario, the kind that required constant movement to reach safe zones while fighting through enemy combatants. The atmospheric mix would make breathing difficult and painful for humans, or so the database claimed. Marcus cleared it in 8 minutes. He was not even breathing hard. Level 4 was the hostile alien horde situation, where 50 individual enemies attacked in coordinated waves. It was designed to be overwhelming, to create that fundamental terror of being outnumbered and outgunned. Marcus treated it like a very aggressive game of tag. At one point, Vex distinctly heard him say, Come on, formation, you are all bunching up. I can see you all at once. Try flanking. By level 5, a combined arms scenario with shifting environmental hazards and advanced AI opponents, Vex was no longer commentating. He was simply staring at the screen where Marcus was casually ducking plasma fire while using a destroyed combat drone as a shield, and for some reason the human was smiling. "Commander," Chitwick said quietly. "The biometric readings." Vex looked at the telemetry. Marcus Reeves's heart rate was 62 beats per minute. That was lower than his resting rate from when he had walked into the facility. "This is not possible," Vex said. "Also," Chitwick continued, clicking nervously, "the simulator temperature is elevated. Not critically, but, well, elevated." "That is normal for extended runs," Vex said dismissively, but he checked the gauge anyway. It was higher than usual. He told himself it was a fluke. The control room door opened, and Captain Yenna Starbridge walked in, her blue-scaled face arranged in an expression of curiosity. "Heard you had a human running the gauntlet. Wanted to see how long before the inevitable emotional breakdown." "Any moment now," Vex said with significantly less confidence than he intended. On screen, Marcus finished level 5, stood in the brief respite between scenarios, and said to nobody in particular, "Huh, this is actually kind of fun. Reminds me of that time in Detroit." "What is a Detroit?" Chitwick asked. Nobody had an answer. Level 6 loaded. Yenna pulled up a chair. "This should be good." It was not good. It was deeply, profoundly concerning. By level 10, the observation room had gained several additional spectators. Word had spread through the station that something unusual was happening at the gauntlet, and now a dozen off-duty personnel were crowded around the monitors, watching with a mixture of fascination and growing existential dread. Level 10 was not supposed to be reached. Historically, only 3 beings in the facility's entire operational history had made it this far, and all 3 had required extensive psychological counseling afterward. The simulator at this stage was pulling out everything, combinations of scenarios that bordered on sadistic, shifting gravity that changed every 30 seconds, multiple enemy types that required completely different tactical approaches, environmental hazards that were actively trying to kill you, psychological warfare elements that whispered your deepest fears. Marcus was juggling it all while providing color commentary. "Okay, so the gravity shift is every 28 seconds, not 30, he said, casually adjusting his timing while fighting off what appeared to be digital manifestations of nightmare creatures. "And seriously, simulator, the whole manifestation of death thing. Come on. I have seen scarier things in nature documentaries. Have you people ever watched anything about Earth-ocean life? Now that is terrifying." In the control room, things were decidedly less casual. Warning lights were illuminating across the console like a very stressed-out holiday display. Chitwick was frantically pulling up diagnostic screens, his chittering reaching frequencies that suggested imminent panic molt. "Commander, the processing cores are running at 94% capacity," Chitwick reported. That should not be possible. The simulator is designed to never exceed 70% even under maximum load." Vex stared at the numbers. The simulator's AI was working harder than it ever had. It was throwing everything at Marcus, adapting in real time, creating new scenarios on the fly, and the human was just, handling it? "The temperature is now critically elevated," Chitwick added. "We are approaching thermal shutdown protocols." "Do not shut it down," Vex said, his pride now wrestling with his engineering sense. "He will break. Humans break. I have read the xenopsychology reports." "Yeah, about those reports," Captain Yenna said, leaning back in her chair with the expression of someone watching a particularly entertaining disaster. "I have actually served with humans. Did a joint operation about 6 years ago. You know what I learned? Those reports are written by xenopsychologists who have never seen a human do anything more strenuous than fill out paperwork." On screen, Marcus had just used a digital alien corpse as an improvised surfboard to ride down a lava flow while shooting at aerial targets. He was laughing. "I am now taking bets," Yenna announced to the room. 20 credit says he makes level 15. That is impossible, someone said. 50 says he makes level 15, another voice countered. Money began changing hands. Vex wanted to shut it all down to maintain some dignity, but he was trapped by his own procedures. You did not stop a simulation unless the participant requested it or lost consciousness. Those were the rules. Rules he had written. Level 11 loaded, then 12. The temperature gauge moved from yellow to orange to a particularly aggressive shade of red. Smoke, actual visible smoke, began wisping from one of the cooling vents. "This is bad," Chitwick announced. "This is very bad. The simulator is processing more combat calculations per second than it does during 10 normal sessions combined. The human is making it work too hard." "How is that possible?" Vex demanded. "The AI should be able to handle any scenario." "Yes, under normal circumstances," Chitwick said. "But it is designed assuming the participant will make mistakes, will slow down, will show fatigue, will demonstrate predictable human... Oh. The simulator is adapting to counter his moves, but he adapts faster. So it adapts again. And he adapts again. They are in a feedback loop. The AI has never encountered someone who forces it to constantly recalculate at this speed." On screen, Marcus encountered an ambush from above for the third time. "Oh, come on," he said, sounding genuinely disappointed. "That is the third time you have tried the ambush from above thing. Mix it up. Try lateral, or below, or, I do not know. Just stand there and ask nicely. At this point, I would appreciate the variety." "He is critiquing the simulator's tactics," Yenna said, delighted. "He is giving it performance feedback." Level 13. The control room door opened again, and sludge oozed in. Sludge was the facility's chief engineer, a Glorbosian whose species was essentially sentient protoplasm, with a genius-level understanding of complex machinery. He took one look at the diagnostic panels and made a sound like a deflating whoopee cushion. "Who authorized this?" Sludge burbled. "These readings are impossible. You are going to fry the entire neural network." "The human is still in there," Vex said weakly. Sludge extended a pseudopod to check the data streams. "The human is forcing my beautiful simulator to think harder than it has ever thought. Do you know what the processing costs are? Do you have any idea how much computational power is being used right now? This is more than we used during certification for heavy weapons operators. This is more than we used that time we accidentally left it running over a long weekend." Level 14 loaded. Marcus was now actively styling on the simulator, doing things that were technically effective, but absolutely unnecessary. Like diving through a narrow gap while spinning, or using an enemy's weapon while simultaneously disarming 3 others. "I think," Yenna said slowly, "we might need to reconsider some assumptions about human combat capabilities." "What assumptions?" Vex asked, watching his professional pride crumble in real time. "All of them," Yenna replied. The simulator made one last, desperate attempt at level 15. It created 50 elite enemies simultaneously, a scenario that was not supposed to be accessible, that existed in the code only as a theoretical maximum. The chamber filled with hostile combatants, all moving with perfect coordination. Marcus paused. For a moment, Vex thought victory was at hand. The human was finally overwhelmed. Then Marcus smiled. "Oh good, now we are talking. I was getting bored." Chitwick made a sound like a tea kettle achieving consciousness, and then immediately regretting it. The simulation at level 15 was, in technical terms, completely losing its mind. It was designed to challenge. It was programmed to adapt. It had sophisticated AI subroutines that could generate virtually infinite combat scenarios. What it was not designed to do was experience something approaching digital frustration, but if computers could feel emotions, the Gauntlet Mark 9 was definitely feeling some type of way about Marcus Reeves. Vex watched the screens with the hollow expression of someone whose entire worldview was being systematically demolished by a cheerful mammal who kept making references to something called a CrossFit box that apparently prepared him for simulated death better than actual military training. The 50 elite enemies converged on Marcus with perfect tactical precision. They were using advanced formation tactics, covering fire, synchronized attacks, everything the simulator's highest-level combat algorithms could produce. Marcus looked at them the way someone might look at a moderately challenging Sudoku puzzle. "Okay, so you want to come at me simultaneously," Marcus said, analyzing the formation while casually dodging plasma fire. "Interesting choice. Tactically sound. But you are all programmed with similar response times, which means if I create a choke point here and force you to... Yep, there we go." He proceeded to turn the enemy's coordination against them, using the terrain to funnel them into positions where their numbers became a liability. It was, Vex had to admit with great reluctance, actually quite brilliant. More smoke was coming from the control panels. Not wisps anymore. Actual smoke. The kind that suggested things that should not be on fire were exploring the concept. "I am pulling circuit breakers," Chitwick announced, scrambling across the console with his multiple limbs. "Temperature has exceeded critical thresholds. We are approaching catastrophic failure." "How much longer can the system sustain this?" Vex asked. "It cannot," Sludge burbled grimly. "It should have shut down 3 levels ago. The only reason it is still running is because the AI is too busy trying to kill the human to realize it should stop." In the simulation, Marcus had cleared the 50 enemies and was now facing the environmental hazards, which had escalated to a level that could be described as aggressively apocalyptic. The ground was simultaneously freezing and on fire, which was a neat trick. The air was full of shrapnel moving at supersonic speeds, and the gravity was doing things that would make a physicist cry. Marcus was treating it like an obstacle course. An annoying obstacle course, admittedly, but nothing that required actual stress. "This is not possible," Vex said, for what might have been the 20th time. "Our database clearly states that humans have standard endurance, standard reflexes, standard psychological resilience. This is not standard." "Commander," Yenna said, "I am going to tell you something, and you are going to hate it. I already hate everything about this situation. Humans," Yenna continued, "do not have a normal understanding of the word training. I learned this the hard way. Do you know what they consider recreational activity?" Vex did not, but he was getting the feeling he was about to find out. "Ultramarathons," Yenna said. "Running distances that would kill most species. For fun. They have something called mixed martial arts, where they fight each other until someone gives up, and they do this voluntarily. Their idea of a relaxing vacation includes jumping off cliffs attached to elastic cords or diving into water to look at the predators. Their planet has an entire continent where everything is actively trying to kill them, and they founded a nation there and called it a good time." "That is insane," Chitwick chittered. "That is Australia," Yenna corrected. "Also insane, yes, but apparently quite lovely if you are human." On screen, the simulator was pulling its absolute last resort, the scenario that existed in the code but was never meant to be used, the one the programmers added as a joke. It was every horror, every nightmare, every possible thing that could go wrong in combat, all at once. It was digital hell. Marcus studied it for about 3 seconds. "Huh. Creative. I like it. Okay, let us see." And he dove in. Alarms were now blaring across the facility. The temperature had gone from red to a color that did not exist on the normal spectrum, something that suggested the machine was experiencing concepts beyond standard thermodynamics. Engineers were running toward the control room. Someone was shouting about fire suppression systems. Vex pulled up Marcus's personnel file with shaking hands, something he probably should have done before letting the human into his facility. He read through the service record. Standard postings, nothing unusual. Then he reached the personal information section. Physical training routine. His morning jog, Vex read aloud slowly, is 20 miles, in full gear, before breakfast. "How much is a mile?" Chitwick asked. Sludge did the conversion. About 0.6 of 1 standard unit. So 12 standard units, Vex calculated. That is farther than my species can travel in a day. "He does it before breakfast," Yenna repeated. "That is the warm-up. Then he does what humans call a workout." The simulation was dying. You could see it in the way the scenarios were starting to glitch. The way enemy movements were becoming jerky and uncoordinated. The AI was running out of ideas, out of processing power, out of the ability to continue. It had thrown everything it had at Marcus, and Marcus was still going. "Emergency shutdown," Sludge announced. "Activating now, we have no choice." "Wait," Vex said, because at this point he needed to see how this ended. "Commander, the gauntlet is literally catching fire," Sludge said. Which was true. Actual flames were visible through the seams of the main processing unit. The smell of burning circuitry filled the control room. "Fine," Vex conceded. "Shut it down." Sludge slammed the emergency cutoff. The simulation froze, flickered, and died. The chamber door opened with an angry hiss that suggested it was also judging everyone's decisions today. Marcus walked out, slightly sweaty, looking around with mild confusion. "Wait, why did it stop? Is there a level 16? Vex stared at him. Chitwick had collapsed into a small, clicking pile of stress. Yenna was laughing so hard she had tears streaming down her scaled face. Sludge had formed a puddle of existential despair on the floor. "The simulator," Vex said carefully, "caught fire." "Oh," Marcus said, "is it okay?" "No." Sludge burbled from his puddle. "No, it is not okay. It will never be okay. My beautiful machine. Ruined." "Sorry about that," Marcus said, and he sounded genuinely apologetic. "Should I have gone easier on it?" 20 pairs of eyes stared at him. Several species present did not even have eyes, and they were still staring. The post-simulation damage assessment took approximately 30 seconds, which was 30 seconds longer than Sludge needed to declare the Gauntlet Mark IX completely and irrevocably destroyed. The chief engineer had reformed from his puddle of despair into a pseudopod of very specific technical fury, pointing at readouts that showed melted circuits, fried processing cores, and what appeared to be a neural network that had experienced the computational equivalent of a nervous breakdown. "This," Sludge announced to the assembled crowd, "is what we in the engineering field call comprehensively screwed. The main processing core is slag. The AI matrix has corrupted. The cooling system melted. The backup cooling system also melted. The tertiary emergency cooling system, which is theoretically impossible to damage, has somehow achieved a state that I can only describe as sad. Repair cost estimate is, well, more than a small warship." "How much more?" Chitwick asked weakly. "A medium-sized warship, possibly approaching large." Marcus, who had been given a towel and a bottle of water by someone who assumed he needed it, looked genuinely distressed. "I am really sorry about that. I signed all the waivers though, right?" Vex checked the paperwork with the desperate hope of someone looking for a legal escape hatch. The human had indeed signed all the waivers, every single one, including the one about equipment damage, which Vex had included as a joke because nobody had ever damaged the gauntlet before. It was supposed to be indestructible. It was not, apparently, indestructible against humans. Captain Yenna, still grinning with the satisfaction of someone who had won a significant amount of money on her bets, stepped forward. "Commander Vex, I think we need to have a conversation about human training protocols." "There are no human training protocols," Vex said. "They use the same ones as everyone else." "Yes, and that is the problem," Yenna replied. She turned to Marcus. "Quick question. What do you consider a light morning jog?" "Oh, just 20 miles or so," Marcus said. "Nothing major. Gets the blood flowing." Yenna looked at Vex. "Convert that." Chitwick did the math. 12 standard units. "And what?" Yenna continued. "Do you do for an actual workout?" Marcus shrugged. "Depends on the day. Upper body, lower body, core, usually about 2 hours. Mix of strength training and cardio. Maybe some swimming if there is a pool." 2 hours, Vex repeated slowly, after running 12 standard units. "Well, yeah," Marcus said. "That is just the warm-up. You need to properly train afterward." The observation room had gone very quiet. It was the kind of quiet that happens when a large group of people simultaneously realize they have made a terrible mistake in their understanding of reality. "What?" Chitwick asked in a very small voice. "Do humans consider difficult exercise?" Marcus thought about it. I mean, there is this thing called an Ironman triathlon. You swim for about 2.4 miles, bike for 112 miles, then run a marathon. That is pretty challenging. How long is a marathon? Someone asked. 26.2 miles. More conversion calculations. More horrified silence. And humans do this voluntarily? Vex asked. Oh sure, Marcus said. It is pretty popular. I have done a few. Great way to spend a weekend. Yenna was nodding with the expression of someone whose worldview was being validated. This is what I tried to tell Command. Human recreational activities are what most species would classify as advanced military torture. Their idea of fun is our idea of war crimes. That seems harsh, Marcus said. Marcus, your planet has an entire continent where everything is venomous or otherwise capable of killing you, and you people decided to live there anyway, Yenna countered. You have animals called drop bears, box jellyfish, and something called a cassowary, which is apparently a bird, but also a velociraptor. Your plants can cause pain that lasts for years, and you call it Australia and treat it like a tourist destination. Okay, but Australia is beautiful, Marcus protested. Also, drop bears are not real. That is just a thing we tell tourists. The fact that you have to specify which deadly animals are real and which are made up to scare people is proving my point, Yenna said. Vex was still processing the numbers. He pulled up human physical standards from the galactic database. This says humans have average endurance. Average for humans, Yenna corrected. The problem is that humans wrote those reports. They do not realize their average is everyone else's exceptional. Do you know what a human considers couch potato behavior? Sitting around only exercising 3 times a week. They are apologetic about it. I mean, I could be in better shape, Marcus offered. You just destroyed a military-grade combat simulator by forcing it to work harder than it was ever designed to work. And you did it while chatting casually about how it reminded you of Detroit, Yenna said. You do not get to claim you are out of shape. What is a Detroit? Chitwick asked again, but everyone ignored him. Station command arrived at that moment, led by Admiral Torx, a Vraxian whose species was known for being extremely by the book and having absolutely no sense of humor about damaged equipment that cost more than his annual budget. He looked at the smoking ruins of the Gauntlet Mark 9, looked at Vex and made a sound like a disappointed walrus. Explain, Admiral Torx said. Vex tried. He really did. But how do you explain that a human had broken a supposedly unbreakable machine by being too good at the thing the machine was designed to test? How do you explain that everything they thought they knew about human limitations was based on humans being polite and not wanting to brag? Yenna stepped in. Admiral, with respect, I think we need to reconsider how we handle human personnel. They require different training protocols. The standard ones are not challenging enough. Not challenging enough? Admiral Torcus repeated. This one destroyed the most advanced combat simulator in the sector. Because it was too easy, Yenna said. He called it a warm-up, sir. The Admiral looked at Marcus, who gave a little wave. Is this true? I mean, I would not say it was easy, Marcus said diplomatically. It was a pretty good workout, 7 out of 10. Could use some refinement in the AI tactics and maybe better cooling systems, but overall decent. 7 out of 10, the Admiral repeated. Decent, Vex added, his voice hollow. As a warm-up, Yenna finished. The Admiral was silent for a long moment. Then he sighed, which in Vraxian sounded like a leaking hydraulic line. Draft new protocols, human-specific. Clearly, we have been underestimating them. Underestimating is one way to put it, Yenna muttered. The emergency meeting of Station Kronos 7 command staff took place 3 hours later, after the fires were put out and Sludge had finished cataloging the damage in a document titled, Why I Am Requesting Early Retirement, a technical analysis of broken dreams. Marcus had been asked to wait outside, which he did cheerfully, doing something he called push-ups in the corridor. After his first 100, several passing personnel decided to take alternate routes. Inside the conference room, Admiral Torx was reviewing the incident reports with the kind of expression that suggested he was reconsidering all his life choices. So let me be certain I understand this correctly, the Admiral said. The human completed 15 levels of the gauntlet simulation, setting a new facility record by approximately, forever? He did this while the simulator was actively trying to kill him with scenarios we did not even know existed in the programming. He did this so effectively that the AI worked itself into literal thermal shutdown, and his primary complaint is that it was not challenging enough. That is accurate, sir, Vex confirmed, his forearms slumped in defeat. And he was not enhanced? No cybernetics, no genetic modifications, no performance-enhancing substances? We checked, Chitwick said. 3 times. He is baseline human. This is apparently normal for them. Normal, the Admiral repeated, as if testing the word to see if it would make sense. It did not. Captain Yenna leaned forward. Admiral, I have been saying this for years. Humans are classified as a Tier 3 species because we evaluated them based on their technology and politics. But physically? Sir, they are a Tier 1 species pretending to be normal because they do not want to be rude about it. That is a serious claim, Admiral Torx said. Their planet is a death world, Yenna continued. Not borderline, not technically. Actually a death world. The gravity is high. The atmosphere is corrosive enough that most species need respirators. The weather actively tries to kill you. They evolved as persistence predators, which means they are designed to chase things until those things die of exhaustion. They have adrenaline, which is essentially a built-in combat stimulant. They can ignore pain through sheer stubbornness, and they think this is all completely unremarkable because every other human is exactly the same way. So what do you propose? The Admiral asked. New classification, human protocol training standards. We build simulators that actually challenge them, which means simulators approximately 5 times more intensive than what we use for everyone else. The Admiral considered this. The cost is less than replacing the gauntlet every time a human needs certification, Sludge burbled from his corner. I have run the numbers. If we get more humans coming through, and based on their expanding role in galactic affairs we need equipment that can handle them. This means significant upgrades to processing power, cooling systems, and structural integrity. Also, possibly therapy for the AI. The AI needs therapy? The AI experienced existential dread, Sludge said. It had a purpose, which was to challenge warriors. Then it met a human and realized that some beings cannot be challenged by conventional means. This has caused what I can only describe as a crisis of confidence in the code. Fine, Admiral Torx said. Draft the new protocols. Budget approved. I will deal with Central Command and their inevitable questions about why we need funding equivalent to a small fleet. Anything else? The human wants to know when the new simulator will be ready, Vex said quietly. Everyone looked at him. He asked, the Admiral said. He is, I believe the phrase is, eager to try again, Vex confirmed. He mentioned something about wanting a proper challenge next time. The room was silent. Then Yenna started laughing again. That same delighted laugh of someone watching the universe reorganize itself around new and terrifying information. 3 months later, the new simulator was unveiled, the Gauntlet Mark X, human-rated. It had triple the processing power, a cooling system that could handle a small sun, and AI that had been extensively counseled about not taking performance personally. The facility held a small ceremony, because apparently this was newsworthy enough that galactic media showed up. Marcus was the first test subject naturally. They had agreed to this. He walked into the new chamber, which hummed with barely restrained power, and gave a thumbs up to the control room. Commander Vex, who had been demoted to Human Liaison Officer, which he suspected was just a nice way of saying, the person responsible for this mess, activated the simulation. It was set to Legendary Nightmare Mode, a difficulty that had been created specifically for humans and was theoretically impossible for any other species to survive for more than 30 seconds. Marcus ran it for 2 hours. When he emerged, slightly more sweaty than before but still fundamentally fine, he stretched his arms and considered the experience. Pretty good, he said. I would give it a solid 7 out of 10, maybe 7.5, definitely a decent warm-up. Chitwick fainted. He just collapsed directly into unconsciousness, his body's way of saying that it could not process this reality anymore. Vex stared at the human, then at the monitoring equipment which showed the simulator had performed flawlessly and was still operating within acceptable parameters, then back at the human. 7 out of 10, he said flatly. Yeah, Marcus confirmed. The AI tactics were much better this time. Really appreciated the varied approach. The difficulty curve was solid. My only critique would be that it plateaued a bit around the 90-minute mark. Maybe add some more escalation in the final phases? More escalation, Vex repeated. Just a suggestion, Marcus said. But hey, this is a great facility. Much better than the one on Station Kepler 9. That one barely got my heart rate above resting. He gathered his gear bag, thanked everyone for their time, and left to file his certification paperwork. Behind him, he left a control room full of personnel who were collectively reconsidering everything they thought they knew about physical limitations, mental endurance, and the nature of the word warm-up. Captain Yenna patted Vex on the shoulder with one scaled hand. You know what the worst part is? Everything, Vex suggested. Everything is the worst part? The worst part, Yenna said, is that he was being nice. That was him going easy on the simulator so he would not break it again. He pulled his punches. Vex looked at her. How do you know that? Because I have seen humans in actual combat, Yenna said. What he just did? That was Marcus Reeves being polite. That was him on a casual Tuesday. Imagine what he could do if he actually tried. Vex did not want to imagine that. He had imagination enough, and it was all occupied with horror. The official report filed to Galactic Command 3 days later was a masterpiece of bureaucratic understatement. It noted that human physical standards had been revised upward. It mentioned that new training protocols had been implemented. It suggested in very careful language that perhaps humanity's classification as a Tier 3 species was due for review, at least in terms of individual combat capability. What it did not mention, because nobody wanted to put it in writing, was the conversation Admiral Torkus had with his counterpart at Central Command. They are terrifying, Admiral Torkus had said. The humans? Yes, the humans. They are persistence predators from a death world who consider our advanced military training to be light exercise. They have a concept called no pain, no gain, which means they do not consider it worthwhile unless it hurts. They think suffering is character building. Their idea of fun is our idea of war crimes. And they are all like this. Every single one of them. Surely you are exaggerating. I wish I was, Admiral Torque said. I truly, desperately wish I was. Back at Station Chrono 7, Marcus was filling out his certification paperwork in the administrative office, chatting pleasantly with the clerk about whether the station had a decent gym. The clerk, a Zellian with 6 eyes, all of which were currently staring at Marcus with a mixture of awe and terror, mentioned there was a fitness facility on Deck 12. Great, Marcus said. I need to get my real workout in. The simulator was fun, but you know I need to keep up with my routine. The simulator was not your workout? The clerk asked. Nah, that was just a warm-up, Marcus said. Gets the blood flowing. Now I need to actually exercise. The clerk made a note in her personal log to never, under any circumstances, go to Deck 12 while humans were present. Marcus finished his paperwork, thanked everyone for their help, and headed off to find the gym. Behind him, the legend grew. The human who broke the gauntlet. The mammal who made the simulator cry. The being who called hell a warm-up. And somewhere in the station's social networks, someone posted a video compilation of Marcus running the Gauntlet Mark X with the title "Human Does Literally Nothing Impressive by Human Standards. Accidentally redefines galactic combat training." It got 40 million views in 6 hours. The top comment was from Captain Yenna. Wait until you see what they call a fun weekend. I have been running the Human Training Protocol facility for half a standard year now. We have processed 73 humans through advanced combat certification. Not one of them has failed. Not one has complained. Several have asked if we can make it harder. I have learned things about humanity that I wish I could unlearn. I know about CrossFit, which is apparently a cult based on suffering. I know about ultramarathons, which are races that last for days. I know about something called Hell Week, which is military training so intense that the name itself is considered accurate, not hyperbolic. I know that when a human says something is easy, it would kill me. When they say something is moderate, it would kill my entire unit. When they say something is challenging, it would require orbital bombardment to survive. And I know that Marcus Reeves, the human who started all this, just qualified as an instructor. He will be training the next generation of galactic warriors. He assures me he will go easy on them. I am updating my will. But I will admit, and I will only say this once, humans have made us better, stronger, more capable. They have forced us to reconsider our limits. And in a galaxy that is growing more dangerous, perhaps we needed that. Perhaps we needed someone to show us what is actually possible when you refuse to accept limitations. Perhaps we needed humans, even if they are absolutely terrifying. End log. Marcus's review of the facility, posted to the Galactic Training Network. Station Chronos 7 has excellent facilities and helpful staff. The new human protocol simulator is a solid warm-up option. 4 out of 5 stars. Would recommend. Only downside is the gym on Deck 12 needs heavier weights.
I'm actually